welcome back to the Star Wars Show live from Star Wars Celebration 2016 on StarWars.com. And now I am joined on stage by Mr. Gareth Edwards, director of Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. This weekend has to be just off the rails for you.
Every day is insane on Star Wars, but I think this is the high point coming here with these guys.
I was out watching the panel here on stage with a whole room full of fans, and the energy was just outrageous. It was infectious. What was it like being in that hall?
I get really nervous. Like I prefer to be behind the camera. I hate doing things where you're in front of 4,000 people. And so, thank you. That's my dad back there. And so I spent the whole month, to be honest, like having anxiety about it all. But the second you walk out, and the second the crowd cheers, it just all goes away. And like without being offensive to any other franchise, the thing about Star Wars fans is they're normal people.
Yeah, we have the best fans.
Yeah.
Star Wars has the best fans. So, and speaking of, awesome fans, you are a massive Star Wars fan yourself. We've talked about this before. What was it like going from a Star Wars fan to someone who's actually making Star Wars?
I thought it was going to be really intimidating because, I grew up with it. I'm a massive fan. I'd be here if I wasn't being asked to be here with the movie. And then what you find out is actually a really strange thing happens is because you grew up with these characters, you grew up with these vehicles and environments that it's really comforting. It makes you feel like a child. And so as intimidating as it is to be working on Star Wars, the second a stormtrooper walks past, you just feel like a 4-year-old again, and you feel like you're back home and your mum's going to call you for your lunch, and everything feels calm and it's really easy to deal with. Telling
the first Star Wars story, which is a complete departure, but it's still something that's so familiar to us, what kind of challenges are inherent in setting that tone?
I think the real balancing act has been, what we found out early on is like, there's this really fine line of what is Star Wars, and if you just go to the left of it, you're some other sci-fi movie, like you start to become like Star Trek and things like that. And if you just go to the other side of it, all you're doing is copying what's been before.
Uh-huh.
And so to try and do something new but feels familiar, like the films we grew up with, is like a real balancing act that even in just the designs, like trying to do something new that still feels like it was designed by Ralph McQuarrie or someone, was a lot of fun. It was kind of the best bit, really, the 6 months of development where we were sort of like trying to evolve the movie. I think that's one of the most special times in the process.
And so now that the movie is finishing completion, the hype is building. I mean, what kind of experience is that like as a filmmaker? Because you've been behind the scenes and creating so intensely for so long. To be in the lead up to its release, that's got to be really intense.
I genuinely tried not to think about it. I mean,
I'm sorry, Ben.
Thank you. It's like, look at this. This is just stupid.
Pretty fantastic. And some of the designs in Rogue One are really exciting, particularly the Death Troopers. People are really stoked about. Where did that come from?
Well, the Death Troopers came from like one of the great things you can do when you get to make Star Wars. You go to the Lucasfilm archives, and you get to go through all the different objects and stuff. And the woman who runs that place gets really bored, I think, because every person like me was going, so is this the Millennium Falcon? She's like, yes. Is this the actual Millennium Falcon that was used in the film? Yes. This is the actual one that was used in the shots. It's not like another one. Yes, that's the one. Okay,
Can
cool.
I touch it?
And then it's like, is this the actual X-Wing that was in? Yes. The actual one. This is the one that's in the shot. Yeah. They didn't use another one. This is it. Yes. Okay. Is this the actual lightsaber they use in the? Yes. And like the whole day goes like this, where you go through every single object you can think of. And at the very back of the room, there's these drawers, and it's basically full of all like the Joe Johnston and Ralph McQuarrie original art. There's the original actual paintings that they showed the studio to try and get Star Wars made. And on some of those images, there were these stormtroopers that were really tall and thin, and they looked so cool and athletic. Like the thing is, when you put armor on a stormtrooper, they look like NFL players, and but they were these sleek, like sort of SAS-looking but white stormtroopers. And so we thought, well, let's try and find some like 6-7 foot tall people that were really thin. and try and figure out a new stormtrooper that can actually hit its target with guns. And they became eventually the Death Troopers. So.
That's fantastic. We're really looking forward to seeing them. So when we talked with StarWars.com like 2 years ago, which I know is eons ago in your life.
You never called me since.
You told us that on your trip to Tunisia, you took a little bit of the Lars Homestead home with you. Are there any little bits of the Rogue set that came home that you felt really attached to? And we won't tell anybody, don't worry.
There was one thing I wanted to steal before the end of the shoot, and I missed my chance. I wanted to steal the Death Star plans. I was like...
Don't we all?
But it's not over yet. I'm going to try and do it before we reach the end.
Well, I hope you get a chance to do it. Thank you so much for stopping by. It was really fun talking
to
you.
Thanks.
Gareth Edwards, guys. Gareth Edwards. Amazing. And we will be back in just a minute with more Star Wars from Star Wars Celebration Europe here on the Star Wars Show Live and on StarWars.com.